Good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me at the Afro-Asia FinTech Festival. Today, I would like to provide you a perspective on a topic that is very close to my heart, on building trustworthy AI. I am a data scientist and AI practitioner, so I would like to provide you a very practical perspective on how organizations of all sectors and sizes could apply trustworthy AI principles in their workflows. To provide some context, Visa is an early adopter of AI. We have been using neural networks since 1993 to detect fraud, and now artificial intelligence is being harnessed across multiple areas for business, including product, technology, and research. To give you some examples of the business benefits of AI, currently we have used AI to prevent an estimated 25 billion a year loss through fraud. In addition to that, there are many other processes such as transaction approval, cybersecurity, and product marketing use cases that leverage AI to make services more efficient and protect customers. However, one of the things that we must do when deploying AI services to the public is to put ourselves in the shoes of the people that are going to be affected by the model decisions. We must always strive to protect the customers and those vulnerable from the dangers of badly designed AI. So at the end of the day, nothing is more important to us than upholding the trust of consumers who need to have full protection and benefit from the services we provide. So with that, I would like to provide you a practical example of how AI ethics could be applicable in the case of product marketing. Let us take an example of a card issuing bank who may be looking to understand which customers are more likely to transact online. In this product marketing case, the business opportunity for a financial institution is to grow revenue from e-commerce transactions by sending offers to those customers that are more likely to respond. However, it is very difficult to do this manually, so this problem set provides a great candidate for using AI to automate some of the decision making. The idea is that we may want to use AI to predict which of the cards that are more likely to respond based on historical data, and then target maybe a subset of those cards for online offers. However, even in product marketing, there are many ethical considerations that we must think about. There are some challenges that are very much determined by the product and the audience that the service is being targeted to. In the case of denial of services, we have seen in the news that women may be less likely to be shown advertisements for high-paid jobs, given that historically the data is skewed towards male populations. And in financial inclusion, if we were to only target groups historically that are affluent, then that would also create higher societal disparity. So denial of service is something we must be very wary about when looking at deploying AI solutions. At the same time, we must also protect vulnerable groups from the harms of badly designed AI. To provide examples of this, recently there has been a lot of scrutiny on showing social media and weight loss ads to vulnerable groups like teenagers. So we must always look at ensuring that the right groups are included, but at the same time that the vulnerable groups are protected from the harms of badly designed AI. So with this, we say that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to ethics and AI, and in the context of product marketing, we have to consider the materiality and the impact to the customer before we build a solution. So here I would like to provide a set of questions that development teams, such as data scientists, could adopt to find a more user-centric approach towards building and deploying AI solutions. Firstly, we must ask ourselves who are the customers and how should the model be explained to them? And ultimately, how does AI impact their lives? And based on that, the technical architecture of the models would be designed in such a way that consumers are protected. In addition to that, data inputs and model inputs must be appropriate for the use case, and model bias should be a consideration depending on the fairness goals. Finally, we must also understand the governance side of models and ensure that post-deployment we have a mechanism or a safety switch if something goes wrong. Taking all of these considerations in mind, let's take a deeper look at fairness. So currently, most AI practitioners train models from historical data, and most of these models deployed in the environment are fairness unaware. And really, there is no one-size-fits-all approach towards ensuring fairness. However, what we need is a transition in the field to fairness-aware AI. Within fairness, there are multiple definitions, so we will talk about them in detail. However, sometimes, in some cases, we may want to maximize the needs of individuals without trying to achieve perfect societal parity, depending on the product or service promoted by AI. Whereas in other cases, we may want to achieve group fairness or demographic parity, especially when financial inclusion is desired. So this is why the problem has been extremely hard to crack. Models have to be fairness and aware. However, we need to come up with an approach that's holistic enough. There are currently several hundreds of definitions of fairness and mathematical representations. However, it's not straightforward how to apply a universal formula to achieve fairness. This is why we must consider it on a case-by-case basis and adopt a more human-centric approach. So with this in mind, the Visa Data Science team entered the Global Veritas Challenge, which was organized by the Monetary Authority of Singapore, and we adopted a stakeholder-centric approach towards AI fairness. So the idea that we were trying to provide is how can we build models with shared accountability and governance? Because it is not just about data scientists. So data scientists or AI deployers like myself would typically build models, but then in financial institutions, we have deployers or model owners, as well as oversight teams such as model risk management, who also ensure that models that are deployed with AI are safe. And all of these stakeholders have a shared accountability in protecting the consumers from the harms of badly designed AI. So with this in mind, we pitched a fairness toolkit as a solution that would enable all three stakeholders to achieve better accountability and fairness. So for AI developers, we actually built a new toolkit with tutorials on product marketing to enable them to apply fairness concepts more intuitively. For AI deployers, we're looking at visualizing the outcome of fair versus unaware AI and looking at how long-term financial inclusion can also provide revenue to the banks by improving the customer diversity. And oversight teams can also benefit from better audit trails and accountability and transparency in their AI solutions. So keeping all of these considerations in mind, we would like to conclude that ethics has to be at the core of all of the business services that we deploy. And it's not just the legal requirements, but also our strong organizational values for consumer benefit and protection, accountability, fairness, and inclusion. In addition, it is not difficult to have a one-size-fits-all because even there are multiple frameworks. So we need a top-down approach where leadership supports and also bottom-up empowerment from AI practitioners like myself. And finally, we have shown that diversity and inclusion is critical to ensure that models in the future also consider this to avoid bias and discrimination. So both in our personal and technical approaches, we must always strive to achieve better inclusion across all of the services that we deploy. Thank you very much for listening. Asante sana.